Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Monday, the 6th day of February, 2023, Monday of the 5th week of the year, the 5th week in Ordinary Time. But also today we remember a great memorial in one way. It is the memorial of Peter Baptist, Paul Mikki, and companions. In the Universal Church's calendar, Paul Mikki goes first. He was a Jesuit, and these were martyrs in Japan, and because Paul Mikki was Japanese, he gets to go first. But in the Franciscan calendar, it's Peter Baptist, who was another Japanese missionary or convert to Christianity, but he was a Franciscan. And so this was during the great Tokugawa shogunate's kind of rounding up of Christians and sort of killing them off, executing them because they were interfering with Japanese politics and all kinds of warlords and things like that. And so it's a tragic time for the church in Japan, but through it shone these people of faith who basically tried to give courage and give perseverance in the faith in the midst of all the oppression. There were outstanding Jesuits who were martyred during this time, but it was there were more Franciscans, lay Franciscans, all kinds of things who were martyred. And so in the Franciscan calendar, Peter Baptist goes first and Paul Mikki goes second. But in the Universal calendar, it's Peter Baptist, it's Paul Mikki first, and then Peter Baptist. It all gets very complicated and sometimes very political. Anyway. Still in San Diego, getting ready to come back to Raleigh. Again, beautiful blue sky, as you would have in Carolina also. This is behind me. This is Old Town, San Diego, which is more or less a tchotchke shop. And so a kind of an invented old time historical kind of a place. But this is the friary where the friars live, who teach at the University of San Diego, the Franciscan School of Theology there, as well as administer this parish, which you can't really see. There it goes. There it is. That's the Church of the Immaculate Conception. And we did not found this, but we were pastors here for many years. And it is close to the landing site of Junipero Serra when he came to this part of California to begin the founding of the missions. Again, Junipero, who comes from very controversial stock, and his sainthood very controversial, etc. But part of the growth of California is because of his arrival here in one way. The native peoples here also suffered because of it, but again, it goes much more complicated and things like that. But this is Old Town San Diego, and a nice little street with shops and restaurants and things like that. So enough of your tourist brochure. The readings for today, there are special readings if you wanted to remember Peter Baptist and Paul Mikki especially, but the readings for today move away. The first reading moves finally away from Hebrews, and we go to Genesis. We go basically to the beginning, in the beginning, the first chapter of Genesis, and we hear the first 4 days of God's creation in Genesis 1, which is the principal creation account, is the creation account that we should pay attention to, the creation account that does shape our faith. Genesis 2's creation count is kind of an addition to all of this, and really we should be careful whenever we use it. But here in these first 4 days, God creates light from darkness, God separates the land from the sky, God begins to create vegetation and things in the sea and stuff like that. But every day after which God creates, God calls it good. Because what God does is good, and creation therefore is good. Something always important to remember, even through the difficulties and the pains and the anxieties that we suffer as human beings and our world suffers. This creation is good, and because of that, it needs reverence, it needs dignity, it needs care, it needs respect, because again, it comes from God, not from us, and we need to remember that. In the gospel, Mark's gospel continues, and what has happened is that Jesus and his disciples have moved from one side of the Sea of Galilee to the other side, to the area of the Gennesaret, and people are coming to him because they know what he's done on the one side of the Sea of Galilee, and they want to experience it themselves. And so they ask for healings, and they bring out the sick and possessed and whatever it is, and Jesus basically heals them, because again, this is the Jesus who cares. This is the Jesus who wants to make our lives into what they are meant to be, not just better, but what it is that God has designed our lives to be. Sometimes we forget about that. Sometimes our lives get caught up in disappointments and despairs and those things that, that we wish had happened to us, but that didn't. That is us kind of getting in the way at times. Whatever happens to us, God is there, either to navigate us through that, to bring us something that we had not suspected before, to allow us to see the more always in our lives. The more that we are attentive to that, the more our lives are shaped in glory. The more that we are attentive to that, then we can be truly witnesses of hope and of peace in this world. The more that we are attentive to that, our lives are enriched, and the hope that we live can be shared with others. And may the Lord give you his peace.